Okay, if everything has gone according to plan, we should be live on YouTube. Hello everyone and welcome back to Weekends with Avrona. It's been a while, but nothing interesting has been happening, I'm sorry. The issue is that a lot of the big guys are now saving all of the announcements for CES, which is just around the corner. And then there's Valve. Valve always do things differently to everyone else, hence why we're here getting free big new releases from them. And like I joked in my original video on the Steam machine, this is the first time probably Valve ever did anything in freeze. Obviously the big one a lot of people haven't focused on, and where I've been seeing the most discourse so far, has been the Steam machine, but of course there's also the VR headset and also the brand new Steam controller, which, okay, yeah, there's a good reason no one cares about that, it's just a controller, but we have to kind of talk about a bit more in depth what exactly was announced, and that is exactly what we'll be doing today. Let me just quickly zoom out the camera out a bit more. There we go, that's a bit better. So let's just quickly jump into it, shall we? Starting off with, I had to start with the Steam frame because I was about to make a video that is a update essentially to the video I did I think a year ago about how VR is kind of dead and PC VR especially is dead and Meta kind of killed it, and it was I was planning on doing an update to that, and then Valve do this, so I kind of have to change a lot in that video because of this now, so thanks Valve. But it is a very welcome to see it because, again, like I said in that video, I had my worries about where VR was heading, and especially the concept of using your superior PC hardware to actually run VR games rather than just using an underpowered Snapdragon chip on the headset itself. Okay, so what exactly do we have here? We have a headset with an underpowered Snapdragon SoC right in it. Valve. Okay, it's not as simple as that. I think it is very much a given. It is a standard set by Meta, and I don't think anyone would really want a system that doesn't even have any kind of built-in gaming capabilities. And of course it helps with stuff like motion tracking. It helps with all of the complex calculations that make the VR realistic. All of the mirrors and everything that it uses to make the illusion that you are in a world work. So I think it is unescapable. I do not still like the practice of developers prioritizing making the games for it rather than running on a PC. However, this is where Steam and Valve are going to be different from Meta. Meta have been making quite a few, I'm not saying making, they're not the ones making them, but they've been getting quite a few Meta exclusive titles, which I'm pretty sure that as part of the obligations for that, they're specifically looking and specifically funding games that can be played on the device itself, rather than what they call Rift games, which are ones which you can play from the Oculus Rift store or from Steam or basically just from your PC. And again, I ranted a lot before about how confusing Meta have made a whole Rift ecosystem now within the context of the brand new Quest ecosystem. It's going to be a lot different with Valve. I cannot see Valve, one, making any deals for exclusives, because they don't need that. They're Valve, they're Steam. They don't need, they really don't need to try to get exclusives. But also I don't think they're going to try and make developers make games to be only played on the built-in silicon. Because, again, they are Valve, they're Steam. They have built their entire reputation on PCs. So it would make literally no sense, and just not a very Valve move. It's a Meta move because they want to do it to sell the hardware, to show the capabilities of the hardware. But I don't think that's something that Valve would do. They didn't release any Steam Deck exclusive titles to try and push the hardware, and I don't think they'll be doing anything like that here. So that's kind of a big concern of mine gone. But I still have some concerns, mostly if people are going to care. It has already been kind of overshadowed by the Steam machine, which I think is kind of sad. The Steam machine is basically just a mini PC. And it doesn't even run Windows from the start. You have to install Windows on it. While this is a big new next-gen headset from Valve. I mean, the Index was revolutionary. Everyone loved the Index, and given how they're making a brand new VR headset, they're probably going to be making some brand new VR experiences to go alongside with it. I mean, it's been way too long since Half-Life Alyx, and that's been like pretty much the last time that there was a hot must-play app for VR, and more specifically PC VR. So I do find it kind of sad that it's been overshadowed already, and definitely one of the issues with this approach of them just dumping all this hardware at us at once. Another thing that already makes me a lot more comfortable, and this is my first time looking at this website, by the way, what makes it a lot more comfortable is that before they even go into it, right, they just, a very quick introduction, you can just like talking about, you know, and it supports standalone play too. That's all you're getting. This would be a completely different website if Meta was the one making this product. That would be, here it is just basically a small footnote that you can play. Here, PC VR. Welcome to Sensibleville, where using the better hardware in your system makes more sense. Okay, I'm getting way too heated and annoyed over this, but again, I have so much to say about how Meta does things. But okay, you go from there. Standalone is just a tiny little footnote here in the first paragraph, and then they go straight into how they've made it better for PC VR gaming by how they're gonna improve the streaming quality from PC for great wireless streaming. Now, streaming has already gone a long way. I mean, there's so many great solutions now on the Meta. In fact, there's too many, I'd say. It's kind of confusing. But obviously your main ones are either virtual desktop or also the built-in Quest Link, or what's it called? Airlink? Quest Link? Something like that. MetaLink? Whatever. Like the built-in wireless one from Meta. It's also good enough that you really can't tell it's being streamed rather than being on a wire. I think wired VR is long gone, and now we're just kind of there improving the streaming quality, which is awesome. And again, the fact that they're prioritizing this first and foremost is great. And I think it also makes sense because that is what people are gotten used to from Valve. If they all of a sudden try to make a complete pivot to standalone VR gaming, it will be very odd, and it just wouldn't be what people expect from them. So again, it makes sense because it is still the number one priority, especially for people who are going into this from the Index, which isn't made anymore because this will be a direct replacement to it, and because it's just better in every single possible way. So basically, controllers, they just look like your Quest 3 controllers. Let's be honest, they look pretty much identical, apart from you get like an extra button here. Shape wise, it looks fine, a bit on the kind of bulky side on the front, but it looks pretty fine. The kind of glass at the front is an interesting touch. I highly doubt they're going to do what Apple did and like give you some fake eyes or whatever. That didn't really catch on. So I think it's just going to be there to give the front a bit of aesthetic to it, rather than just having the same material as on the sides as, again, the Quest line. And basically the Steam frame is also a PC, runs SteamOS, yada yada yada. So I actually wonder, can you install Windows on it? I mean, if it's just a PC, I guess you can. But again, of course, the main priority of this is just to play your Steam games from your Steam library on your PC. So I don't think you'll be messing around too much with the ecosystem on the headset itself. And I don't think too many people care too much about the ecosystem on the headset itself, as long as it takes as few clicks as possible to get into your games you want, or if you like watch YouTube on your VR headset, like that's pretty much everything anyone could ever want from a user interface within a headset. Like it really does not have to be anything special. Developer kit, blah blah blah. Steam frame plays well wherever Steam is. And of course we get to the specs. Now, like I said, it does use Snapdragon yet again, and like I said, I don't think I could care any less how good it is of a chip inside, because this is, again, first and foremost going to be about streaming from your PC. It uses 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5X memory, which is actually the same as a Steam machine, but we'll get to that in a second. And overall, quality-wise, I mean, you're getting 4K per eye, up to 144 Hz, smooth enough, And again, when it's probably going to be as good as you can get, you need a super powerful PC to get a high resolution or higher refresh rate going than that. So that's all fine. And then Wi-Fi 7 as well. That is cool to see. All of the features, basically. And it's 440 grams, which could be worse, actually. That's with the head strap and everything. Wait, core mod? Oh yeah, because everything's okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And then you get the controls themselves. So overall, I am very much looking forward to this. Again, I am kind of sad that it got kind of overshadowed by the Steam machine, but I am excited there's something happening in the VR world. But of course, the hardware can only go so far. It's still about the software at the end of the day, and I still feel we haven't had like a hot VR app since Half-Life Alyx, and I was like, what, 2020? 2021? And it also feels like there's just like no promotion going on, no advertising, no marketing. One thing that really annoyed me was a while back when Ubisoft released Assassin's Creed VR game. It was called Nexus, I believe. And then I heard about it for the first time like 2 weeks before it released, and even then, all of the descriptions and everything about it just made it so confusing. Like I couldn't tell what the game was even about. And then after it, surprise, performed poorly because they didn't market it correctly, they're like, oh, it's not worth making VR games. I'm not going to invest much in VR development in the future. No! It is worth investing in. There's a huge market there to be filled because no one's making big AAA games for VR. You just did it in the worst way possible. So that really annoyed me. That really, really annoyed me. But it's Ubisoft. They are famous for making dumb decisions. Though there's a new Alien game, by the way. That looks actually pretty cool. So I think I should probably give that one a go as well, just to get some use out of my Quest 3, which I honestly haven't used in probably like half a year now. It's currently in a race with my Switch 2, which console I'm going to use less, the Quest 3 or the Switch 2, because neither of them I've used. The Switch 2 I haven't literally touched since I did my coverage of it when it first came out. But anyway, so that is the Steam frame. Obviously, another big factor is going to be the price, and unfortunately, we don't know the price. We don't know anything about any of the stuff they announced so far, apart from the fact that they're coming in 2026, which rather makes it weird. Like, obviously, a normal company would just wait until CES, announce at CES, or if you're announcing something in November, it's usually for Christmas sales. But no, they're not even releasing it in December or even late November for those lucrative Christmas sales. They're releasing it next year. Because Valve is not a normal company, and that's kind of why we love Valve. They just do things their way, and that's also one of the reasons why I'm kind of hopeful about this, because there are so many dedicated Valve fans. There are so many people that would drink the Kool-Aid if Gabe asked them to, and for that alone, I think the Steam frame is going to do really, really well. And again, I think it's the kind of jolt that VR needs right now. That's going to be about on the level, hopefully, of the original launch of the Valve Index. But again, let me know your thoughts on this. I'm probably not going to buy it just because definitely not going to be cheap. And yeah, I highly doubt Valve are going to send one just for review purposes. So, oh well. Let's talk about one that's a bit more... people are more divided on. It's been talked about a lot. I talked about it. I made a whole video about it, but I wanna talk even more than I did in that video. It's the Steam machine. It goes by many names. I know people like the Gabe Cube. It looks nice, minimalist, very, very minimalist. But there's also a lot that is concerning about it. Like, for example, what on earth is its unique selling point? Because it's literally just a mini PC. They show what it looks like inside. It's like 3/4 cooling, and then a small motherboard with a custom Ryzen CPU, custom Ryzen GPU that is non-replaceable. The memory is replaceable, however, which is a good thing, which we'll get to in a second. And that's it. So what is the point of it existing? Unless it's gonna cost, like, I don't know, $200, $300, $400 max to really undercut the traditional home consoles, because it's definitely not going to be able to compete with them when it comes to performance. And let's get into that, shall we? Where's the performance? So we are getting CPU wise 6 Zen 4 cores up to 4.8 GHz, only 30 watt TDP. And in terms of GPU, we are getting what is essentially going to be the same specs with 8 GB of VRAM and 28 compute units as the 7600M. So that's like a mobile chip they did. We did the 7800M on the channel before. I showcased that weird eGPU that had a 7800M. So the 7600M is obviously like the next one down from that. So basically not that great. You can go into Tech Power Up, you can see all the specs, but this is basically just a slightly higher clocked version of the RX 7600M. And obviously the internet wasn't too happy when they found out that this thing is gonna have only 8 GB of GDDR6 memory, because the internet just hates anything that doesn't have at least 10 or 12 GB, and Nvidia just made that. I wouldn't say Nvidia made it like a big issue. A lot of viewers made it a big issue, and sure, 8 GB is technically fine. You can definitely play some games on it, but it's definitely not great. And the bigger issue is, the way I see it is, like I said, it looks like it wants to compete from all of some of the marketing and stuff like that, and the way it's kind of positioning itself as a console, like it wants to compete with the other home consoles like the Xbox and the PlayStation. However, so if you're using this on your living room TV, that is probably going to be 4K. Odds are most of us have a 4K TV in our living room now. 8 GB of VRAM is nowhere near enough for good 8K gaming. And especially because these are PC versions of games. With Xbox and PlayStation specific versions of games, the devs at least do some to optimize for the exact specs that those systems have. Because the great thing about consoles is that there's literally only one possible config that they need to target. Well, okay. Obviously, with some of the new versions, the Pros and the kind of the mid-generation refreshes, and of the Xbox Series X and S, it's not that simple. But there's like 2 or 3 basically potential specs they need to target. With PCs, there's pretty much unlimited specs, and that's what makes optimization a bit more difficult. So here you have the much more unoptimized PC versions of games that we are expecting to run at 4K on just 8 GB of VRAM and only 16 GB of RAM. Now again, that is upgradable, and because it is by default running SteamOS rather than on Windows, it's not going to have a lot of the other background tasks running, and you can install Windows on it, and even then again, it's going to be pretty lightweight, so I'm not too worried about the fact it only has 16 GB. Especially because we're seeing movements from Microsoft to have a more gaming-oriented versions of Windows. We're seeing kind of movements towards an Xbox and on the kind of handheld ROG Ally kind of side of things, and with the Quest 3 collab. So it's not something I'm mega worried about. I think we're going to have a pretty good and efficient gaming Windows skin very, very soon that just gets rid of everything that isn't necessary for gaming. So I think that would be a pretty good thing to install on this machine when it comes out, to really make the most of just those 16 gigs, and you get of course the full package of Windows features, and the fact that you don't have to worry about compatibility or emulation through what is it that they use, Proton I believe it's called. So you don't have to worry about any of that. But again, because you have unupgradable 8 GB of VRAM, it's still going to look awful and run awful on your 4K TV. Unless, of course, you use FSR, which they're probably going to be prioritizing, but you're still going to need quite a bit of FSR to make it look good when you're dealing with such a low-end specs. And it's not just me. It's like people have been generally complaining that this thing is just underpowered for what it's meant to be doing. And I saw so many insane copes about it. I think one of my favorite ones is that that someone said that, oh, they're doing it on purpose to basically show others how these kind of mini PCs can be built. Like the Steam Deck was also pretty underpowered, but it paved a whole new way for other companies to do it better. Like, I'm sorry, so you're basically saying that Valve are purposefully selling an underpowered dev kit essentially so that the other guys can do it properly. That's not the argument you think it is. And so yeah, a lot of people are torn on it, because even if it is a pretty cool little thing, mini PC essentially, it's very much held back by the hardware. Another thing I just noticed, only gigabit Ethernet. Not even 2.5 gig to make downloads faster or anything. If for like the 3 or 4 people that have fast and gigabit Ethernet, unless you live somewhere like, I don't know, like Switzerland, where you have like 10 gigabits for the same price that we here have, like 1 gigabit, I guess. Same with Wi-Fi, only Wi-Fi 6E, not even Wi-Fi 7. You're getting what, 2 terabytes maximum? That would be decent. But again, so much of this depends on the price. It is the sword of Damocles hanging over this, and I think they're purposefully not revealing it yet because they want to see how people are going to react. That's my conspiracy theory. That based on people's reaction, they will price it accordingly. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they just take all of those polls people have been doing on Twitter saying, how much do you think the Steam machine or the Steam frame should cost? And then they actually use that to try and form the decision based on what people are responding. And that's, again, a very Valve thing to do. Valve like to do things a very specific way. So yeah, it is... I have such mixed feelings for it. But again, at the end of the day, I just have no idea why it exists. I have no idea what it's supposed to be... what niche it's supposed to be filling. Unless it's, again, the home console thing. But again, with those kind of specs, it really needs to be priced really, really well. That it can actually be a good competitor to consoles. Even if you do have access to your whole Steam library, again, you have pretty much access to most of the same games we've seen in Xbox. Because pretty much everything that's available on the Xbox is also available on Windows. It's weird. It's just weird. But anyway, final thing, the Steam controller. What is there even to say about it? It's just a controller. It looks like they just took the Steam Deck and then just took everything. They just took the screen out of it, and this is what's left. It's literally that. Pretty much the only thing I could even complain about is just the fact that it used more of the PlayStation style analog stick placement rather than the more Xbox one, which I find I prefer a bit more, the kind of asymmetrical one. Apart from that, it's going to be very interesting because of how you have this entire thing here, where you'd usually kind of rest at least a bit of your hand, not much, but a bit would always rest there, and now you have this giant lump of plastic with the 2 touchpads there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that's gonna how it's gonna do. Oh, I just noticed you have 2 additional buttons on the side here. You have rumble. You have gyro as well. I'm very interested to see like what possible use cases that could be for that. Because like there isn't really any motion controls for PC games. But it's maybe one of those long-term things that we will eventually see coming. Like, for example, with the current trend of analog keyboards, where you can set the actuation point, or where you can really just customize every single switch. With the huge explosion of popularity of those kind of keyboards, at least in certain circles, they're definitely not mainstream, but they are slowly getting there. I can very much see more games with support for analog inputs on a keyboard. I think that would be great. There's so many games that would benefit from having that, because, I mean, just look how many games benefit from that on just a regular controller on consoles. So, again, it's one of those things that maybe it's a very, 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 very long term to have any kind of gyro integrated in it as well. And then, yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's a controller, so I think I'll just leave it at that. Again, we don't know the price. Again, it's coming in 2026. And again, why 2026 when you just have the Christmas period right around the corner, and so many people would want to get one of these for Christmas. But anyway, that is about it for this week of Avrona. It's been a while since the last one, but again, that's because nothing is really happening up until the lead up to CES. We are thankfully going to be getting another live stream with the Black Friday coming up soon. Well, I say soon, I think it's 2 more weeks. So hopefully you will be getting a live stream then. We'll be doing our usual kind of build. And if anything else interesting happens, then of course we're going to be doing Weekends with Runner as well. And as usual, if you have any suggestions on what else you want to see in Weekends with Runner, a large part of it is just I want to keep it varied. Like for example, we did the one where I've just built a keyboard from Wu-Tang that everyone sent over, or we did another one where it's like an interview with Ian Cuttress, like stuff like that. It's not just news, but it's supposed to be very much a variety show, I guess you can call it. But anyway, that's about it for this episode of Weekends with Runner. So hopefully you liked it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe, like whatever, and I see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye everyone. Goodbye.